Greetings, programs. Welcome back to the Awesome Friday podcast. It is that time of year, folks. It is the award season. We have already seen the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice Awards, and the Emmys have happened, and we've just finally received from the Academy their nominees for the 2024 Oscars, and we're going to talk about them. If you're not aware, my name is Matthew, and I'm your host, and joining me, as is usual, is Simon for this discussion. How are you today, Simon? Say hello.
Good. Hello, I'm fine. I'm good. It's Sunday, so everything's busy and crazy, but I'm happy to be here talking about the Oscars. I do enjoy Oscars shows, and we will be doing a live blog again, so make sure you check that out on Sunday, March the 10th at, 4 p.m. our time? I'll check out the time. But
I think it's 5.
yes, do join
I think
us
it's 4 for the pre-show and 5 for the show, I believe, is
Right.
the usual time. But I haven't actually looked
because
it's a month away. But the nominees are out.
It really
And we're going to, I think, pretty much dive right in because there's a lot to talk about, and we're going to talk about most of the categories to some extent. If you would like to hear... so part of the way this is going to work is I'm going to ask Simon some questions about some of these categories because I went on the Contra Zoom pod and talked about my reactions to many of these nominees already this week. So I'm not going to chime in too much, but I am going to ask Simon some questions, and we're going to try and get through more of the categories than we did on Contra Zoom. We are going to try and get through a lot of the technical ones. So we're going to try and zip through those and then get to the big ones and talk a little more in depth. So, are you ready to have said discussion, Simon?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Right.
I'm
Good.
ready.
Well, let's see. I want to leave writing to closer to the end. So let us start with the category of best visual effects. And what we're going to just to be clear, what we're going to do, I'm going to ask Simon what he thinks of the nominees. I might chime in as well. And I'm going to ask 2 questions about every category. And that is, what do you think is going to win? And what would you prefer win yourself? Right? Clear on that? Because those are definitely 2 different things. So let's start with the category of best visual effects. So in that category, we have Napoleon, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Godzilla -1, and The Creator. And first question actually is, have you seen all of these films?
No, I haven't seen Napoleon.
Right. I have seen all of them, and they all have good special effects. So there you go. Any surprises here for you? Anything you think should be on the list that isn't?
No, I mean, not really. I think we've been quite critical of visual effects, haven't we, this year? And a couple of the films that the 2 films I really wanted to be on here are on here. And I haven't seen Napoleon. There's a film on here I'm not sure I would have put on for visual effects, but I guess the best ones are the invisible ones, aren't they? So I think actually I haven't seen Napoleon, but I've got a feeling in my jellies that Napoleon is going to win. I've seen a lot of the trailers, and we can't shoot movies, big war scale movies like we used to, where they used to just hire like thousands of local people and dress them up in costumes and fire rockets at them. So I got a feeling Napoleon's going to be awarded for this epic, using visual effects to create this epic sense of scale from that time. Just based on the trailers alone, really. I would love... I don't think The Creator's going to win, but it is a standout movie for me in terms of special effects. But what I would really love to win, and I hope... The problem is about hope is that you keep hoping and then your things don't win and it hurts. But I do have hope that Godzilla -1 wins the visual effects, because the video of that team just bouncing around with joy with their Oscar nomination made my heart sing. And that movie has exceptional special effects, and it's done by one dude who also directed it. And he's just a Godzilla fan who decided to make this amazing, moving Godzilla movie. and fair play to Toho. They took a complete risk on this largely untried director. He'd done a few things before, some bigger scale things before, but nothing like with their franchise. And I think it's a triumph. I think the special effects in Godzilla, if you compare it to Shin Godzilla from 2016, which takes almost a stop motion kind of approach to Godzilla, it's a very kind of OG Godzilla design and the way it moves. And this is different. This is a big, heavier, weightier, chunkier Godzilla that feels completely real in its environment. And that is a huge achievement, I think. I would love Godzilla to win.
I mean, I agree. I kind of hope that it wins. I kind of hope that it gains the, like, I was going to say sympathy vote, but that's the wrong thing. But just the recognition that it is basically one guy who I'd have to double check, but I think he actually wrote the film as well, in addition to directing it and doing the special effects, which is a hell of a thing. Like, to be so solely responsible for a film. And I can't. I mean, it was never going to be nominated for more stuff, but I kind of wish that it was, because it's a legitimately great film. It's definitely not the kind of film the Academy goes for, but it is a great film. As is often the case, like the great films are not the ones that necessarily win. So. Do with that information what you shall.
What's your prediction here? Do you think the creator might nip in and grab it?
I mean, I think it's probably going to be... You're probably not that far off with your reasoning for Napoleon. I still think the creator is the best pick of all of them, given what they achieved with the money they achieved and the realism they achieved. I think it's probably the creator, but I don't exactly have my finger on the pulse, so it's yeah. I kind of hope it's the. I would not be unhappy if it were the creator. I would also not be unhappy if it were Godzilla. I don't think there's actually any really bad choices here, but I think it's probably going to be the creator. So I'll lock that in.
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along. We're going to be zipping through these things. Let's talk about sound. So, 5 nominees. They are The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. And let me just interrupt you here and say The Zone of Interest is the one that should win. There's a lot of great choices in this. I watched The Zone of Interest yesterday, and it is the film that should win this award. And just mark it down. Like, there's nothing else to talk about. The Zone of Interest is a film that the sound design of The Zone of Interest not only is exquisite just by itself, but it is the one that the sound actually serves a purpose in the experience of watching this film in a way that I don't think I've ever quite seen before. You haven't seen the movie, and just for those of you who haven't seen it, The Zone of Interest is a story of the commandant of a concentration camp, and it takes place in his home, which is directly adjacent to said camp, and you never see inside the camp, and the camera never even makes a move that you might see inside the camp, but you can hear it the whole movie, and it is astounding. And if it doesn't win the Oscar for best sound, there is officially something rotten in Denmark. Like, there is and to be clear, I think the sound in The Creator is great. I think the sound in Maestro is great. I think the sound in Oppenheimer in particular is great. And that film makes great use of silence as part of its sound design as well. And Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, there's lots of amazing sound design choices in that, and just the level of detail they would have had to go into is incredible. But The Zone of Interest is the film that should win the Oscar for Best Sound. And if there were still 2 awards for Best Sound, it should win both of them. But there isn't, so it's
Well, The funny thing is that I haven't seen Zone of Interest, but I was going to say exactly the same script as you, except for Oppenheimer. Like the sound in Oppenheimer is so fundamental to the way the story is told, and one of the things I came away most impressed by in that incredibly made movie was how good the sound was and how it didn't. It kind of did the opposite of what I was expecting. I was expecting a barrage of sound, and it actually played a lot with breaks of silence and how to intersect the silence, which I thought was genius. Now, I haven't seen Zone of Interest, so you may be completely correct. But I have exactly the same reasoning, but for the ones I've seen, which would be Oppenheimer, which is what I think will win too. That's what I want and what I predict will win. But that will probably change when I finally watch Zone of Interest.
So I would say that like you're not wrong that Oppenheimer is I think probably the solid second choice for this category.
Hmm.
But I cannot understate the power of watching the sort of mundane goings on in a house next door to a concentration camp that you can also hear.
Hmm.
Like just the dull hum of
Sure.
the trains, the random gunshots and screaming, the billowing of the smokestacks just past the wall that you can like
Hmm.
it is something else. Um so I think I wouldn't necessarily be unhappy if Oppenheimer won, but Zone of Interest is a film that should win. Just full.
Right.
If it was going to win
Fair
one
enough.
award in this in this entire celebration of film, it would be sound.
Hmm.
I think it's going to win more than that, but
Mm.
sound would be the one that it should be a lock for, as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm. Okay.
Moving on. Let's talk about production design.
Yes.
All right, so the number of great choices here: Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Now, I have seen
Poor
all of
thing.
these except for Poor Things, which is
I
a shame because I
know.
feel like it's a pretty strong contender.
Yeah, and like Poor Things and Zone of Interest are the two big holes that I'm worried about. I've actually seen way more movies this year than I usually do when it comes up to Oscars, but those two I feel like could, if I'd seen them in time, could disrupt all of my choices.
Well, the good
Um,
news is that like we're doing this pretty early. We do have like I'm sure I'll
yeah,
be able to see Poor Things in the next month. You know,
we're going to cover it the week it comes out on demand, which I believe is February the 6th, so it's going to be soon for sure.
well that's like
I can't wait to
next.
see
That's
that
like
film.
next week.
Oh, is that next week or the week after?
Well, today's
Anyway,
January 28th, so I think it's next week. Oh, whatever.
no,
We're
it
gonna
doesn't
cover it
matter. Yeah.
soon. We're gonna cover it when we can cover it. Is the
Yes,
point? Um,
yes. Week Tuesday, I think it comes out. But yes, I'm very, very much looking forward to that. And I watched The Lobster quite recently, relatively recently. That was a definite "I told you so" moment, and
hmm
loved it. Thought it was incredible, and I quite liked The Favorite as well. I thought it was good. I adored The Lobster, and I've loved everything I've seen about Poor Things, so I can't wait to get stuck into it.
Yep. Yep.
In terms of production design, I feel like Killers of the Flower Moon is going to soak up a lot of these. I think it is exquisitely designed. I don't think I like the movie as much as some others, but from a design point of view, it is um, it is beautifully designed and full of details and full of authentic details. And I think the authentic references to the native peoples of America this year are going to win big in Oscars voting. So I think Killers of the Flower Moon will win, but I would love Barbie to win. That would be my choice because even I've watched that film a couple of times now, and every time it is just a feast. Like beyond the story that's told and the script and the humor, just visually, it is such a feast, and it's not like not just the design itself, but how it's used by Greta Gerwig as well is it's
hmm
exceptional. I would love Barbie to win.
Yeah, I think this category actually has five strong contenders. Having seen again four of the films, I think it has five very strong contenders in terms of the strength and detail of the design. Um, I I think you're probably onto something with Killers of the Flower Moon. I think this might be. I think this might actually be the one that Napoleon wins.
Mm-hmm.
For the period detail. So I think that's my sort of guess, and it is a guess, just to be clear. Um, but yeah, my preference would be Barbie. Like the Barbie movie looks great, and it is the way it looks is also again integral to the story. Um,
Mm.
so that is my preferred choice.
Yes.
Let's talk about
Right.
what should we jump to? Let's jump to makeup and hairstyling.
Mm.
Um, so five choices: Golda, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. And I'm going to jump in right away and say my guess is that Maestro is going to win this one.
Yeah, mine too. It's
Um,
it's had so much press, hasn't it? His
besides just press,
transformation.
it's also like it does that thing that the Academy likes, in that it's also like the most makeup. Like
Mm-hmm.
the most, but not like it's the one where I feel like Poor Things would probably be a good one because that's sort of very, from what I've seen. Again, I haven't seen it, but a lot of it is very flamboyant. But Maestro is also has the like it's Leonard Bernstein. Like they love movies about
Mm.
dead real people. But also, of all the things to say about Maestro, like the makeup is great. Like I don't think I've ever seen
Mm.
a man or a woman aged up so effectively in a film before.
Mm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that's both my choice and my preference in this particular category.
I think you're right. I think Maestro's going to win. Out of the nominees, I would like Society of the Snow to win. I think they did a great job making those boys look like they're on the edge of dying. I'm just shocked that Barbie's not in this category. Just I don't. I thought out of the things that would be a lock for a nomination, it would be makeup, hairstyling, and costume.
Yep.
And I am just really confused why why it's not here. I haven't seen Golda. I don't know what Golda is, but I just don't.
Gold
I don't
Gold is a
get
tough
it.
one. Gold is a tough one. It was released by I can't remember whether it was A24 or who it was in the States, but it was Elevation Pictures here in Canada, and it stars Helen Mirren, and it is a biopic about Golda Meir for the premier of Israel. Yeah,
Uh,
poor timing.
um,
Um,
so I don't know.
not even to dive into any of the politics there, but like that feels like bad timing.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know why Barbie's not nominated, and it would be. I thought this would be the safest, not even nomination, like this win, like for anyone who has seen that movie.
It's interesting
And
actually because I thought the same when I first saw it. I thought the same thing, but production design. I thought that would be the one where I'm like, yep, this is the one. Like they rebuilt the Barbie house in full scale. Like that's gonna win.
mm,
You know.
mhm.
Anyway,
Okay, next.
so let's move up to film editing. So five choices for film editing: Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of a Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. And once again, I have seen four of these, and Poor Things is
Mm,
a big hole in my guesses this year.
yeah.
Um, so this is incomplete, but what's your choice here? Um,
So I think this is going to be another Killers of the Flower Moon again. I think it's really well. It will be deserving. It's a brilliantly made film. Like technically, it's a it's a fantastic film. Technically, I think narratively it didn't quite work for me. But what I would love to win, the film that blew me away from the possibilities of how editing and camera shots and cinematography can work together to show me something I've never seen before, and that was Anatomy of a Fall. I watched that movie and thought, that's fucking editing. How banal is that? Like when something's really good, I get I get a chemical reaction where through good filmmaking that I don't feel for really anything else, and I like that little burst of serotonin when someone edits something well. That for a film that's ostensibly like someone being asked questions in a big room, and then the essence of like transcripts are brought to life through visualizations that we see, and it's edited back and forth, and you never lose track of what's what and who's what. And the fact the whole film is a mystery that is never really solved. Just that film, if I'd seen that film as a filmmaking student, I saw Fight Club as a filmmaking student, and it gave me a panic attack because I couldn't think of a single thing that I would have done better. And this film would have made me realize, holy shit, the world is there if I learn how to edit.
Yep. It's funny because, again, to reuse something you said, I agree with literally everything you said, but Oppenheimer. I think
It
Oppenheimer
is good.
is the best edited thing I've seen this year, in terms just
It's very good.
the way it has to interleave, the way that Nolan has chosen to interweave multiple timelines that inform and reinforce one another, and also compare and contrast one another, to make multiple points about what it means to be a great person, uh,
Hmm.
to be an important person, and to be a hero, and what it means for a hero to fall from grace, and how broad and how narrow both of those things can be is brought to life. I think, I mean, it's this, everything, all the pieces are there, but it wouldn't work if it wasn't so brilliantly edited. And so my expectation and preference for this category is that Oppenheimer will win.
Sweet. It would be a
Uh,
worthy win. It's a fantastically made film.
yeah.
I wouldn't be sad.
All right, let's keep this train a moving. Let's jump to one of the last technical awards I think we have to talk about. We have two major technical awards to talk about still. One of them is costume design, so let's go there. So five
Yeah,
choices again. It's just, you're going to hear these five choices a
same
lot,
five.
folks. Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. And this is another one where, like, you talked about hair and makeup, but like production design, costume design
Hmm.
feels
Hmm.
like an easy win for Barbie. Um,
Hmm.
uh, I have no idea in this category, to be totally honest. I feel like this is one of the categories where Poor Things being unseen by me is a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's gonna make us reappraise some of these, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I am thoroughly convinced Killers of the Flower Moon is going to win this, and I would be astounded that anything but Barbie could win. Again, exquisite. The costume design in Barbie is exquisite, and it's not just the thing that the Barbie pieces you see. Like everything that's done in the visual design to differentiate the worlds that you see and the kind of people that Barbie becomes through this movie. It's all reflected in costume choices. It's incredible. The costume design in this movie is unbelievable.
Hmm.
But Killers of the Flower Moon will win. I'm thoroughly convinced of that.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like, I think the costume design in Oppenheimer is also really good, but
Hmm.
it doesn't feel like, for lack of a better way to say this, it doesn't really feel like enough. Like,
Yeah,
it feels very
it's
authentic,
it's understated.
but without enough flair to really win. Um,
Hmm.
I would say that the costume design in Napoleon is also excellent. I think that could be like a dark horse choice.
Hmm.
I'm just going to put it down for Barbie, though. I uh, I don't. I can't see a world where Barbie doesn't win. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me,
Hmm.
that Barbie wouldn't win this category.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
it's, at first blush, it would be really easy to say that the costume design is super basic, but it's not. It's all
Hmm.
very purposeful. It's all very, there's a lot of detail there, and it all serves both the worlds, like you said, but it also serves like the characters' dispositions and their choices.
Yeah.
I think not winning would be, I mean, again, like, everything's made up and the points don't matter, but I would be shocked if Barbie didn't win this one.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
so one more technical award to go, and that is cinematography. So,
Mm.
this is a tough one. This is a very tough one.
It is,
Um,
yeah.
and I think it's interesting because I'm going to preface this by saying I think it's tough because there's a dark horse entry in here um, that I think would be a deserving win, even though I don't think it will. But
Yeah.
cinematography, your nominees are El Conde, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. And again,
Mm.
like let's just like I'm just gonna stipulate that Poor Things we haven't seen it, so I have no
Mm.
idea. My expectation is that Oppenheimer is going to win this film, but let me just go out there and say that like I did not like the film El Conde, but that is a beautifully, purposefully shot film, and if it won, I would not be unhappy about it.
It certainly has one of the best shots of the year from a cinematography point of view.
You have one of
Um,
the best whole sequences of the year, like not just
yeah,
individual shot, but like there's one whole sequence that is one of the most in a movie I didn't like, one of the most beautiful things I saw all year.
yeah.
So, but my
And
expectation is that the IMAX cameras used to recreate an atomic explosion are what are going to win this
mhm,
award.
yes, I 100% agree. I think this one's a lock for Oppenheimer, and I would like Oppenheimer to win as well.
Yeah, I do
That would be
think I
fantastic.
do think Killers of Flower Moon. Like we've talked a lot about that being in a lot of these technical categories, and I think that it is also a gorgeously shot film. But I think that in a lot of ways, I think that Oppenheimer. I think this is Nolan's year. Honestly, is
Yeah,
and
I
I
do
think
too.
Oppenheimer's going to win a lot of these technical awards, even ones
Mhm,
that I maybe guessed otherwise. But I think Oppenheimer's probably going to win. Although it's
mhm.
interesting, we didn't really talk about, but like Oppenheimer's not nominated for visual effects. That's weird. That's weird. I mean, there's
Yeah,
really one big effect, but also
strange.
like it is the biggest, most important effect. Anyway, that's a whole other discussion.
I wonder if because he actually, I don't know, I'm spitballing. Instead of using computers, he just literally blew up a fuck ton of dynamite and TNT and things that went really, really boom. He actually did the explosion instead of using any kind of technological overlay. But of course, all of that is then enhanced and stitched together. So yeah, it would be a worthy winner.
Well, it's not just that though. Like, there's lots of shots in that film of like nuclear processes happening, and all of those effects were apparently
Yeah,
created in camera.
yeah,
So, like, there's lots there. Um,
yeah.
but anyway, we're getting off track. So that is, I believe, the bulk,
Uh,
if not
yes,
all, of the technical awards. So let's jump over to music.
yes.
All right. So first
Score
up,
or original?
let's talk about original song first. So you have five nominees: "The Fire Inside" from Flamin' Hot, sure. "I'm Just
Is
Ken"
that
from Barbie. Uh, "It Never Went Away" from American Symphony, which don't think I've even heard of. And I'm going to say this wrong, but "Wa
yeah? Good luck.
Wazazeza," "A Song for My People" from Killers of the Flower Moon, and "What Was I Made For" from Barbie. And I think this is Billie Eilish's second nomination, and I
Mhm.
believe it is going to be her second win for
Yeah, I
"What
agree.
Was I Made For." I think that Killers of the Flower Moon is a strong second choice, um, but I believe Billie Eilish is going to take this one home. That song is The song is beautiful. I don't know if you've actually listened to that song, but it is beautiful. Like the
Many
lyrics of
times.
that
It's
song,
beautiful.
like it's beautiful music, but like the lyrics are also like just just go listen to the song. Is all I'm saying. Go listen to what she's actually saying. Um,
It's it's really interesting. Because when she won, now did she win the Emmy for it recently?
she won her last nomination for an Oscar was for No Time to Die, which she won.
But she won an award recently for What Was I Made For, and I can't
She won
remember.
a Golden Globe. A Golden Globe.
Golden Globe. Okay, so in a speech for that, she said that when she was asked to make this song, it was a time when she was massively depressed and she could see any way forward with her music at all and just didn't know what to do. And then just watched this movie and this song just came out. And with that extra context, you can just hear a song that was beautifully about the predicament Barbie was trying to work out the philosophy of why she exists, and then matched with Billie Eilish, who's an incredible singer and songwriter, and so is her brother, matching it with her own sort of existential questions as well. And it's all in that song. It sounds beautiful. Saying that, I think it will win, but I would love I'm Just Ken to be a winner of that category. I'm most excited that they usually do full like performances of all the original songs. If we can get Gosling up to do I'm Just Ken, that would make my night. I don't think he will, but that would really make my
Oh, I
night.
100% think he will if they do it. You got to remember that
Really?
Ryan Gosling got his start in the Mickey Mouse Club. You can find lots of videos of him dancing and singing. Like he's a
Yeah.
triple threat.
Oh, I know he can do it, but he'll be in his fancy suit and everything. I don't know.
Oh, you think they don't do
But
costume changes at the Oscars? No, I think
no,
if
they
they're
never
gonna
do custom.
if they're gonna do it, I think they're gonna do it. Especially
I hope so.
because they didn't. I hope they do because they didn't let him sing any of the La La Land songs. They just had John Legend sing them all, and so and also I don't think there's anyone. I hope honestly, my legitimate hope for I'm Just Ken as a performance at the Oscars is they get everyone who is involved on stage. Like I hope they're rehearsing now, is what I'm saying.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Oh,
But I
yeah,
think
but I
also
think
if
you're
it
right.
were to win, it would be a problem. um, and just to
Um,
reiterate, like so in that song, the part that gets me in What Was I Made For every time is there's a whole section about how she's talking about the stuff that's getting to her, and then she says she can't tell her boyfriend because that's not what he's made for. And just the whole idea of having someone who you love, who loves you, who can't help you is devastating
mm,
to me. And
mm,
and Billie Eilish is like I don't always get her music, but like holy shit, like that she's going to be
mm.
winning awards for the rest of her life.
Yeah, she gets to it for sure. I have to say, A Song for My People in Colors of the Flower Moon was a particular highlight of that film for me, so I wouldn't be mad if that wins. It's a really, really stunning part of that film. But I
No,
think Billie Eilish.
it is. I think it's honestly the only other real choice. I like the Flamin' Hot movie's not good, and I've never heard of American Symphony. I know Diane Warren,
Mm,
who like I think there's a bylaw that says that if Diane Warren writes a song, it has to be nominated. But whatever.
mhm, mhm.
Anyway, let's move on to the other music category, which is the category of original score. So we have 5 nominees here as well, and they are American Fiction, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Now, how many of these have you seen? I think you've seen 3, right?
Three. I haven't seen American Fiction, although I hear very good things.
It is quite
And
good.
obviously, I'm confused. Like confused is the wrong word. I'm interested by the inclusion.
Conflicted,
Confounded.
conflicted.
Conflict. Nah, like I've had my curiosity piqued by the inclusion of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny because it's a totally below average Indiana Jones movie with slightly above average music because I don't think John Williams did the score, did he?
He did actually.
But he did. So this further underlines my interest here. I think Indiana Jones. I haven't ticked this. I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana Jones gets it because they get to give John Williams an Oscar before he dies, and
I
I
don't
think
think
that's why
he.
it might be here.
I don't think he
Like,
needs an Oscar though, does he? Like,
well, but this is like that was his last bit of music before he retired supposedly, and I've got Oppenheimer maybe as a winner. I've got Killers of the Flower Moon. I've ticked in red, which is will, and I've got Oppenheimer ticked in blue, which is want. But I wouldn't be that surprised if they give it to John Williams while they still can. That feels like an Oscar thing to do.
see, on the one hand, I don't. I see what you're saying, but he has one, two, three, four, 5 Oscars already out
Yeah,
of
but do you want?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. He's the most nominated person in history. He's got like 30 nominations here, at least. And
Legacy
he
wins.
did
That's
he
what I'm
did
saying.
retire. He did retire after the Fablemans, and then rescinded that retirement to do Indiana Jones. Um, I think that this is, again, personal preference. I think the Killers of the Flower Moon or Oppenheimer would both be better choices. I think the anachronism of Killers of the Flower Moon music is an excellent, discordant, off-putting choice in a way that serves the film really well. And I think the big, bombastic Ludwig Göransson score for Oppenheimer is probably the score of the year, honestly. And I
Mm-hmm.
that is both my preference and my choice that Ludwig Göransson take home it's at least his second Academy Award for
Mm-hmm.
Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I, I don't think I'd be surprised if they give it to John Williams. I don't. I might be disappointed. This is what I'm coming to.
I, I don't disagree. It's fine. The score is fine. I mean, John Williams, like Spielberg, he doesn't do bad scores. He has a very special sound which he explores that Gustav Holst would be very interested in if he were alive in some kind of lawsuit. But he is an amazing composer, so I wouldn't be disappointed. But I'd be somewhat surprised. But Oppenheimer would be the one that I would like to win for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's see where we're going to go next here. I think I'm going to jump us over to Best International Feature Film. And the reason for that is that this is one of the categories where I just haven't seen most of the nominees. So do you
Mm-hmm.
have a choice here? I've only seen 2 of the 5.
I've seen one, so I've ticked that twice. I've seen Society of the Snow, and I think it's a worthy winner. I haven't seen any of the others. Um, so I would like it to win, and I think it will win.
Uh,
But
I've seen Society of
yeah.
the Snow and Zone of Interest, and I think that it will win. And I think it would be my preference.
Oh,
Of the 2
interesting.
I have seen, I think it is the correct choice.
Society of the Snow.
No, Zone of Interest.
Zone of Interest. Okay, right,
Yeah.
right, right. Yeah, you're probably
Um,
not wrong. I'm sure if I saw it, I'd probably agree with you.
yeah, I mean it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning.
Hmm. Hmm.
All right. Well, that was easy. Let's move
Yeah.
over to the last of the below the line awards, and those. Although I always posit these should be above the line awards, but let's talk about writing. Let's do adapted first. So the awards nominees for adapted screenplay are American Fiction, Barbie,
So many of them.
Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. And now, having seen, again, I've seen all of these except for Poor Things,
Hmm.
and this feels like an impossible choice to me.
Mm.
Um,
I don't know what Barbie is an adaptation of. There's no text that singular text that it came from, or a life where it came from. It's a product. Like I argue that it should be an original, but it doesn't matter what I think because they've
so
been
the
adapted.
the official Academy line is that it is based on existing characters created by Ruth Handler.
Sure. Uh,
I don't know that I agree with that exactly, but like that's and they've done that.
adapted
They
from
did
a
that for
character.
there was another one. I think they did that for Lego as well because it's consistent with the way they've nominated things like this anyway. So I don't necessarily agree with it, but I
Um,
at least appreciate the consistency.
So I've only actually seen two out of these five, so I'm not sure I have a great context I can bring to this. But I think Oppenheimer will win, and I would like Barbie to win. The Oppenheimer's brilliantly written and directed, but it is brilliantly written. Um, the the thing that when I watch Barbie though that I am always absolutely floored by is that. Uh, the way it manages to go through this philosophical journey and yet be about a toy line and be meaningful, and then it cuts that incredible last 20 minutes where I think we're going to talk about Margot Robbie not getting a nomination is fucking cuckoo bananas to me, because what she brings home in that last moment when she becomes real, and that's all the words are on the page and she brings them off, and 50% of that equation has a nomination. And interestingly, this is the nomination that would get Greta Gerwig an Oscar in her hands. The only opportunity she has for that, I believe, because Margot Robbie's down for a producer. So I think Oppenheimer will win, but I would love Barbie to win.
So my preference and my expectation in this category is that Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach will win for Barbie. And my reasoning for that is twofold. One, I think it is the best written film of the year, and I think it's the one that has the most of the nominations. I think it's the one that has the things to say that resonated the most with me. But also, this tends to be the category that directors are given as a sort of, for lack of a better way to say it, as a consolation prize, and Greta Gerwig is omitted from the director category. So, and I feel like that might be almost purposeful because we're going to talk about this when we get there, but there's no bad choices in the director category. And I feel like her not being in that category boosts her chances of winning the screenplay Oscar. So my preference and my expectation is that she will win the adapted screenplay Oscar.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you're not wrong.
Yeah. And that leaves us with original screenplay. So 5 nominees here. And this is a category I've seen all of them. So Anatomy of a Fall. Hang on a second. Best original screenplay. So Anatomy of a Fall by Justine Triet and Arthur Harari. The Holdovers by David Hemmingson. Maestro by Bradley Cooper and Josh Singer. May December by Sammy Birch. And Past Lives by Celine Song.
This is a tough one, isn't it?
So this is one of the ones that I have the biggest split on, and I'll tell you why. And that is because my expectation is that the Holdovers will take this one home, and my preference is that Past Lives will take it home.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think that the Holdovers could be any more of an Academy film if it tried. And I feel like, for the same reasons why I think that Greta Gerwig has her best shot in the screenplay category, as a sort of, again, like, I don't think this is the right word, but again, as like a consolation prize, I think this is the one that the Holdovers will win for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with that reasoning at all. Again, when it comes to the writing out of those movies, May December was brilliantly written as well. Past Lives was good, but Anatomy of a Fall again blew me away. The way that story was told so brilliantly and written so brilliantly, and there's a scene actually in Anatomy of a Fall that I really want to know if it was scripted or if it was like key pointed, bullet pointed, or if it was like free form between the actors after rehearsal, because getting the words off the page and making them sound real is incredibly difficult. And that flashback scene where they're actually having the argument in the kitchen is so spectacularly written. I almost can't believe that it is scripted. It's one of those scenes. So I would like Anatomy of a Fall to win, and I think it might win.
It would be a nice story as well, because for the same reasons that, like, Justine Triet is nominated for Best Director. However, so we're gonna get there, but like, I think this is probably Nolan's year, and I think that giving her the award for screenplay would be a way to sort of justify that. You know what I mean? I believe I do not know this for sure, but knowing that oh, I totally lost my train of thought. Knowing that Arthur Harari is her real life partner also lends some weight to the idea that that fight was a real fight. And the Academy does love things that were drawn from real life and do feel authentic. So I have a hard time. I still think probably the Holdovers is probably going to take it. But Anatomy of a Fall would be an excellent choice. And interestingly, having seen Maestro and not really resonated with it, I would say that the individually scripted scenes are actually very well written. I don't think it holds together as a whole, but I think that there's a lot of good writing in that film. So I don't think there's really any bad choices here, personally.
Right.
Which is an interesting thing. I think that 2023 is going to go down as one of the great years of film. Personally, there's a lot of these categories where there's no bad choices.
Mm.
All right, so we only have a few categories left, don't we? But the last big one before we get into the big six is going to be best animated feature film.
Okay.
Now I've actually only seen two of these, but The Boy and the
Me too.
Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So again, I've only seen two of these. I would love, even though I don't think it's the equal of its part one, I would
Mm-hmm.
love for Across the Spider-Verse to win.
Mm-hmm.
However, for reasons similar to what you were talking about with John Williams, I kind of think The Boy and the Heron will win.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think so too. For the last film of a master filmmaker who has left a legacy across the industry and influenced so much, I think so too, because this is their last chance to do it, and it is meant to be a sensational movie. Um, I just want to talk about how happy I am Nimona's here.
Yeah, it's an
Like
excellent
this,
surprise.
it's the,
Honestly,
it's
like
a mo-
that's where I was going to go too. Like, I think Nimona is an excellent choice and it's excellent to see it here at all.
yeah, a movie that was dumped by a production company by Disney, I believe, and
Hmm.
then about to die. It was 80 something percent done, and they sliced it down and got rid of it. And the creators went on a campaign to get it picked up, and they found a home in Netflix, and it got finished, and it got out the door, and it is brilliant. It would be a worthy winner, even up against Miyazaki's final film. Nimona is it's really interesting actually because it's got a weird structure to it, but it once you watch it a few times, it really works well, and it's brilliantly voiced, and it's just got this chaos energy to it that is missing from so many other animated films, and it's brilliantly written as well. So I'm just so happy it's here. But
Hmm.
I think the Boy and the Heron will win for sure.
Yeah, I basically agree. Um,
Hmm.
but I need to see. It's kind of weird that I haven't seen Elemental. It just didn't really, none of the marketing really grabbed me, and other things came up at the time. But yeah, I hope that it's. I think it would be nice to give it to Boy and the Heron as well.
Yeah,
And
it is.
honestly, like, as a person who, I still think I would love to see Across the Spider Verse win.
Hmm.
Um, but I also think that a lot of that film's impact for me personally will be whether or not Part Three lands. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I rewatched that movie a few times, and each time it kind of diminishes in a way that the first one didn't. So, I'm not sure that film quite worked for me as it did.
yeah, I mean, it's half
As
a
it
story. It's half a
has to.
story, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, all that's left for us to
All
talk
right.
about are the big six. So let's jump into those. And I have a thesis here that I'd like to say ahead of time, and that is that this year's crop of acting and directing nominees are quite possibly the best argument we've ever had in favor of expanding the number of nominees per category. Um,
Yes,
but
totally.
let's jump into that. I'm just going to say it now, so I don't have to say it every time. But let's jump into the category of best actor in a supporting role. So we have five nominees. They are Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, Robert De Niro for Killers of a Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. And do I even need to say that this is Robert Downey's to lose, right? Like I
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I, I feel like,
Yeah.
and honestly, like, I've said this before. I think I said it this week on the other podcast I went on, but like, the first time I saw this film, I left the cinema and I turned to the friends I saw it with, mutual friends of ours and said, if this film only wins one Oscar, one award,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be Best Supporting Actor for Robert Downey Jr.
Mm-hmm.
um,
There might still be a shock. I would love to see Ryan Gosling win this, but I think this is a lock for Downey for sure.
I mean,
I
honestly, I think if they're going to give it to anyone else, they might give it to De Niro.
Oh, I hope not. I love De Niro. De Niro is one of my favorite actors of all time, and I do not want him to win an Oscar for that role.
Let me just say though that like, so I haven't, again, just to like broken record about this, I have not seen Poor Things. I love that Mark Ruffalo is nominated. I think he's a very
Mm,
underrated actor. I think he deserves accolades. Um, I am super happy that Sterling K. Brown is in this category. He is
hmm
so good in American Fiction, and he is just so good in everything that like
It really is.
I don't expect him to win this. But like by the time he does, and he's like this, and he walks up to the stage and they say this is his fourth nomination and his first win. I'm glad that this is one of those because he is so good in American Fiction. Like
Mm.
I don't necessarily think that film 100% works for reasons that I don't want to get into right now because we'll be here all day. But there's nothing about his performance that doesn't work. He's so good.
See, on that tangent, listeners, if you can get hold of a movie called Biosphere, which came out in 2022, which is basically a two-hander with him and Mark Duplass, you will be rewarded. They're both fantastic in that film, but like he is just great, 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 great.
I mean, on the same note, you should seek out. So Biosphere was technically last year, 2023. The year before, he was in a
Oh,
film called Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul, which Regina Hall was nominated for a number of awards for her performance, and I thought that Sterling K. Brown should have been there right alongside her. Uh, she's so good. That movie is so well performed. Definitely not the kind of thing that's going to normally get the big accolades, but like so well performed. It's so good.
so Biosphere had a festival run in 22, which is why it shows 22, but it was general release 23.
Hmm.
Is that one of those films? Oh,
Yeah,
I haven't seen Hot Jesus, and I've heard you talk about that before.
yeah, that was one of the ones. Actually, that was the first episode of this show that you weren't here for. So our good
Mm,
friend Rachel Ho subbed in for you, and we talked about it.
yeah.
So that movie will
I know.
always be special to me because it was the first time I spoke to Rachel.
So, yes, hi Rachel. We miss you. I are kind of a bit no, disappointed that two of the most sensational uh, male supporting roles this year were Dominic Sessa in The Holdovers and Charles Melton in May December. And I the as first or first main roles or breaking roles from TV, it's not usually the kind of thing that the Oscars might push in amongst these like heavyweights, but they both would have been deserving not just nomination but to win as well. Particularly like the Dominic Sess is a fascinating story because he wasn't an actor. He was a kid at the school that they filmed in and offered to audition, and the truth he brings to that role is so sensational and authentic. It's incredible. But Charles Melton who is a gorgeous human being, like he is a handsome boy from Riverdale coming into May December and playing a character who is just full of self doubt and full of like questions of his own worth, and the like to go up against career best by Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman and still be the standout role is like tells you how sensational he is in that film. I would have loved to have seen that recognized too.
I mean, on the same note, you know who I would love to see in this category?
Uh,
Also from Oppenheimer is David Krumholtz, who played Isaac Robbie, the like best friend and like conscience of Oppenheimer in the film. Um, he's not in the film very much, but every single time he's on screen, he steals all of the focus from everyone around him, which is incredible to
oh,
watch.
that guy, yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah,
so
he's really
good.
good. Yeah.
So let me just reiterate my thesis from earlier that this year is the best argument ever for expanding the number Like,
Mm.
like establish maybe 5 is a minimum, but maybe 10 is a maximum for every major category, because there's just so many
Mm.
people left off this list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's jump to
Um,
supporting actress in a supporting role. So this
mhm.
time we have Emily Blunt from Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks from The Color Purple, America Ferrera from Barbie, Jodie Foster from Naiad, and Divine Joy Randolph from The Holdovers. And before we say anything else, let me just say what a joy it is that America Ferrera is nominated. Um,
Yes,
she is a
absolutely.
very underrated part of the Barbie film, and she delivers one of the key monologues, which is what everyone's talking about, and I'm sure will be her clip, but is actually kind of like
Mm-hmm.
not even the best part of her performance. She's so human.
Mm-hmm.
She's so in a world that's so overstated, she manages to be understated in a way that underlines everything the movie's going for. And
Mm-hmm.
she's been working a long time without a ton of accolades, and I'm super excited for her that she's nominated.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
That being said, this is Divine Joy Randolph's to lose, as far as I'm concerned. She is so good in The Holdovers. She has managed to make such a compelling performance out of literally the thinnest, the most thinly sketched character in the entire screenplay, and she
Mm-hmm.
manages to bring it home as the most memorable character. I loved
Mm-hmm.
her in The Holdovers. I think if The Holdovers wins anything, it'll be this one, personally.
Interesting. Yeah, she's very, very good in that film. I agree totally about America Ferrera. I thought she really was the person who made that film what it was actually. Like to for Barbara to learn she has a heart and sees it reflected in this character who is so well written and in depth. And I loved her relationship she has with her daughter, played by help her
Ariana
brilliant
Greenblatt.
actor, who is fantastic actor as well. But she, as much as I do love Margot Robbie. I think she's exceptional, and the reason that film works is that she's got America Ferrera as her like mirror, real life mirror, and just beautiful. I'd love for her to win for that movie, but I think it's going to be Emily Blunt. I think this is going to be her for Oppenheimer.
You think so? I think
Yeah, I
I
feel it.
don't think she has the momentum. So
Mm,
one thing to carry in mind, to keep in mind here, is that like a lot of Oscar wins are really to do with like narrative and momentum. And Divine Joy Randolph has been picking up awards left, right, and center, and Emily Blunt just
mm-hmm,
hasn't. Um,
mm,
and that's a big part of why I think it's hers to lose, like Divine Joy
mm,
Randolph's to lose. A lot of this will be determined. It's interesting we're doing this early, just because a lot of this I think can be turned around by the SAG Awards, because the SAG Awards happen 3 days before Oscar voting ends, and they can have a
mm,
huge impact on
mm,
who's gonna like on the results at the Oscars as well, as maybe best evidenced by Troy Kutzer winning for Coda the other year. He wasn't
mm,
really winning a lot of awards, and then he won the SAG Award, and then he won an Oscar. So
mm,
there's it's also just a big indicator. The actors block of the Academy is the largest block of the Academy, and the SAG Awards are only by the actors, so they can be a pretty big indicator. But I still think this is going to be Divine Joy Randolph. I don't.
mm,
I think, to be fair, I don't think there's a bad choice in here. I haven't seen The Color Purple, but I have seen the other four, and I did not really like Naiad. It's totally fine, but Jodie Foster is actually
mm,
excellent in it. Um,
mm,
she's the best part of the film, like by far. And
mm,
so if they gave it to her, I'd be fine. If they gave it to anyone in this category, I'd be fine. But I think it's Divine Joy Randolph's to lose.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad.
All right. Well, let's
So,
move on then.
shoot.
Sorry, were you saying something?
I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say, move on. Do you want to do like actress in a leading role? Are we
No,
ready for
we'll
that
jump.
fury?
We'll jump to actor in a leading role. So we have
Okay.
5 nominees: Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. And as I did in the last category, let me just point out it is incredible that Jeffrey Wright is nominated. I am so happy for him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, He is very, 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 very good in American Fiction. And of all the things I didn't like about Maestro, Bradley Cooper's acting is not one of them. But I think this is a two-horse race between Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti, and if the existing awards are anything to go by, I think Giamatti currently has the edge. But
Oh, really? Interesting.
I don't I don't know who to choose in this category. I think personally what I think is going to happen is they're going to give it to Giamatti, but my preference would be for Murphy.
Mm-hmm. I'm not far off that. The thing about Giamatti is that he's always great. Like, I thought he was fantastic in The Holdovers, and when he goes from this very un-Giamatti clustered person, then you see the Giamatti come out until it goes full Giamatti by the end. And I feel like he's always been that good. But Cillian Murphy, who's always been a brilliant, like, actor, as Danny sort of described him, I've never seen him lead a movie like this before, or be this sensational, this like magnetic in a film. I'm not far off here. I would it would be my preference for Cillian Murphy, and I think he might get it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think they again, it's a two horse race. I don't. I wouldn't be unhappy with either of them. I do kind of. My preference is for Cillian Murphy. I think that he has been around so long and doing such good work, and always in a supporting place, right? And very rarely in the lead. And that being said, so has Paul Giamatti, and Paul Giamatti's been nominated twice before, or once before, and not won. So there's a there's a bit of that sort of legacy aspect that the Academy often goes for, where like you don't necessarily get it the first time, but second or third, yeah, I think it adds weight to your campaign, as it were.
What was he nominated for?
He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Cinderella Man like 20 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which makes sense. I've seen that movie 20 years ago. And I remember he's very good in it. 2006, yeah, so like 18 years ago.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, let's move on to probably the most stacked category in the entire competition this show, and that is Best Actress in a Leading Role. So your 5 nominees are Annette Bening for Naiad, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. And I'm just going to reiterate my thesis here, and like this is the category that proves my thesis as far as I'm concerned. To be clear, I've said in many places I'm astounded that Annette Bening was chosen over several other people who could be in this category.
Yeah.
But that is also not to say that she was bad. Like she's never good. She's never bad, right? I don't think Naiad is a great movie. And I think a lot of this has to do with like what movies Netflix has chosen to like campaign for in their awards year. But I don't think she's bad, but I personally don't think she's at the level of any of the other nominees or several people who were omitted from the list. So yeah, in terms of like who I think is going to win, I think this is a 2-horse race between Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone. I again have not seen Poor Things, but Emma Stone seems to have the momentum. My actual preference would be for Sandra Hüller to win. Personally. But I think they'll give it to Lily Gladstone. I think if anything is going to win, if Killers of the Flower Moon is going to win anything, it's going to be Best Actress for Lily Gladstone. I will not be shocked if they give it to Emma Stone, but my guess is they're going to give it to Gladstone. But again, I cannot understate how tremendous Sandra Hüller is in Anatomy of a Fall. And especially when
Mhm.
you add in how tremendous she is in the Zone of Interest, it just adds weight to the fact she has, I think, the most successful year as an actor uh,
Mhm.
of anyone who's on any of these lists. But again, um, they should just expand the category. They should make it, at least 5, but up to 10 at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, let's address the elephant in the room. There's no goddamn reason Margot Robbie shouldn't be in this. And if you've got 5 here that you think are stronger, then you make it a 6th person in the nomination, because not having her as the leading actress in probably one of the biggest movies of the year that has been not just a commercial success, but a huge success financially and critically. And it's because she carried that movie. I don't know who else could have done it as well as her. I haven't seen Nayad, but I'm sure she deserves that 5th spot. I think this is a safe lock for Lily Gladstone. I don't think there's anyone else in the race at this point. I think it will be Lily Gladstone. I would,
So Emma Stone has won a bunch of
yeah,
awards, right? I think she has
I,
momentum.
there's no way they're not going to give it to Lily Gladstone.
Yeah.
I will eat. I'm going to eat my hat. I will eat something delicious, but I'll eat it if she doesn't win. I would love. My personal preference would be Sandra Hüller to win for sure.
Mhm.
Uh, Again, Anatomy of a Fall. It's just people talking in a room, really, and she is just unbelievable in that film.
I mean,
So
it's a difficult needle to thread for her to be, and I think it's even more so for any woman character to be someone who is both someone you can root for, but also someone you don't necessarily like at all times.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a like it's a very difficult
So
needle to thread, and I think she threads it
yeah.
wonderfully. And it would be a wonderful surprise if she wins, but I think this is, if it's not going to be Gladstone, it's going to be Stone. So
I will say I would love Sandra Hüller to win, but I didn't like Killers of a Flower Moon overall. I was just sort of tepid about, but Lily Gladstone in that movie is my highlight by a long stretch. As we talked about in our podcast that we covered it, she is just so present and so authentic in that film, and her eyes in that film are incredible. She has some very difficult reaction moments that are absolutely gut wrenching. And I would be very happy if she wins, not just because of her work, but because of what that symbolizes for the community that she's from as well.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think she'll win.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
Well,
so directing is the last one, I reckon.
two big ones left, and the first one of those is Best Director. So 5
Mhm.
nominees one more time. That's Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, and Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. Now, I'm just again going to reiterate my earlier thesis. There should be more. If they were only going to expand one category, this would be the category to expand. I don't.
Mhm.
It's a film is ultimately an expression of a director's intent and sensibilities and work ethic. And I have a hard time with the idea that there's 10 nominees for picture and only 5 for director as a result.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
there's one film in here that I did not resonate with in the same way that lots and lots and lots of other people have, but it is still a wonderfully directed film. There should be more nominees in this category. There should be,
Mhm.
like, it's it's insane to me that Past Lives and Barbie's nominator directors are not nominated.
Yeah.
It's insane to me that uh, like, if you were gonna reward any one thing for, like, I don't think that Maestro is the best film in the world, but like, there's no denying it's super well directed. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I think that pretty much literally the best picture award should be 2 awards, one for the producer and one for the director. Is
Mhm.
my unqualified opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, my preference here is that Christopher Nolan win, and it is also my expectation. I think that it is his to lose at this point. I think that, you know, he's been a favorite of the film bros for a long time, and just he's been denied nominations for things that and wins for things he should have been nominated for and won before. So I think this is his year to finally take it home. Um, but that being said, I don't think there's any bad choices here.
Yeah, Oppenheimer would be a worthy winner. I personally would love to see Justine Triet get the win for Anatomy of a Fall. I think the direction of Anatomy moved me more than the direction of Oppenheimer, if that makes sense. Or
Mm.
it showed me things I haven't seen before. I'm with you on kind of scratching my head why Celine Song's not in there, why um, Greta Gerwig's not in there. Kind of confusing to me why they didn't expand this category, but you've already talked
I
about
mean,
that.
Alexander Payne is what, like, why is the director of The Holdovers not in there? Like, it's
Mm, mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where you end up with a year like it's just nuts to me that the best film of the year might not also be the best directed film of the year. That's a
Yeah,
weird
yeah,
disconnect, you know.
it is. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
yeah, I think Oppenheimer will take it.
yeah, that's my both my preference and my expectation of
Mm-hmm.
the nominees.
Mm-hmm.
Although,
So.
like, I will say now, having seen Zone of Interest, like, if Jonathan Glazer were to take that home as like a dark horse win, like, holy shit, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 100%. But that leaves just Best Picture. So there's
Mm.
10 nominations for the coveted Best Picture trophy, and they are in alphabetical order: American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Now, I have now seen
Mm.
9 of these 10. I think you've probably seen 7 of them.
Maybe. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've seen 6.
Okay. So, do you have a preference among those 6 and an expectation among those 6?
Yeah, I think Oppenheimer will win. Um, and my preference would be Barbie. Out of putting all the composite parts together, the best film of the year. Even though I chose Anatomy of a Fall as when we did our top 10 movie, and so I wouldn't be mad if that wins. But um, I don't think Anatomy will win Best Picture. I think Oppenheimer will, and I think as an Oscar winner for Best Picture, I think it should be Barbie personally.
I mean, my expectation at this point is that Oppenheimer will win.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my my personal best picture of the year remains Past Lives.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that is sort of my preference that it win. I don't think it will, but that's my preference. Um, but let me again just reiterate: like, we're talking about years, like good years for film. There aren't any bad movies in these. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like other years.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not like
Yeah.
other years where you have like one obvious like what, and like,
Mm-hmm.
because the one of these films that I like the least is probably Maestro, and Maestro is a perfectly fine film. Like, its
Mm-hmm.
biggest problem is that it's shallow. It's very well acted. It's very well directed. It's amazingly well edited. Um, but there's a lot to like. There's lots of great music. There's lots of great character moments. I don't feel like I know Leonard Bernstein uh, any
Mm-hmm.
better than I did before I saw the film, and that's my biggest problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's not a bad film. Like, there's no bad films here. You know, there's
Yeah.
no Green Book in this category, for lack of a better way to say it.
Nothing gonna make you like physically angry. There's no artist in this category for me, which yeah, we're not even gonna talk about that. Yeah, I haven't seen American Fiction, obviously, but I've heard very good things. I don't want Killers of the Flower Moon to win. It's a very well-made movie, but it left me sort of solid 3 stars. It didn't stand out for me as many other films in this category have. I wouldn't be mad if Past Lives wins, but I think this might be like the final of Oppenheimer versus Barbie, the marketing dream that was so good for both of them. And yeah, I wouldn't be mad if Oppenheimer wins, which I think it will, but I would love Barbie to win.
I mean,
Just
I
to
would
see that
too. I don't.
Oscar in Margot Robbie's hands for producer would make me very happy.
Yeah, and I don't. Again, I don't. I just don't think there's any. I don't think there's any bad choices. Really, like even if Maestro or I was, compared to the consensus, I was pretty cold on Killers of the Flower Moon as well. But I don't think it's going to be an undeserving win. That being said, I don't think it will. I don't think it has anywhere near the chances that Oppenheimer does. But there's no bad choice, and that alone is worth celebrating the year for, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
there's no
Yeah.
the fact that there's so many good performances that makes me want them to expand the categories rather than make different choices is, I think, an amazing coda to the whole year of cinema.
See what you did there.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Yeah. It's going to be a good show for sure. It's going to have some surprises, I think. And as long as they have a good host, unlike the poor guy at the Globes, I think it'll be fine.
Poor guy. I don't feel sorry for the guy at the Globes because he was bad. It wasn't like he bombed because he was good and nobody liked him. He was bad.
Yeah. It was really, but really bad. So I
It was
feel
so basic.
sorry for him. Yeah. It's really, really badly written and performed and delivered to a room that did not want to be there. Really.
Yeah. But anyway,
the funniest part of the whole night was the Will Ferrell unscripted saying, "It smells like hot sushi in here," because they served everyone raw fish, and with the heat of the room, it apparently smelled really badly.
Huh.
So I enjoyed that moment.
I didn't actually watch the show. I just watched the highlights. So.
It was bad.
Really
bad.
That being said, it's Jimmy Kimmel again. So if you like Jimmy Kimmel, you're in for a treat, and if you don't, well, it's Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, but yes, join us on March the. Oh, I've closed it. March the 10th.
Yes, March the 10th.
Join us on March the 10th to
year
see
of
how
our
right we are.
year of our Swift 20 and 24. And just for the record, let's see if any of this is surprising to you. I don't know if you've looked up the numbers, but there are 5 films with 2 nominations: The Creator, Mission Impossible, Naiad, Past Lives, and Society of the Snow. Napoleon has 3. There are 4 films with 5 nominations each: American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, The Zone of Interest. Maestro has 7. Barbie has 8. Killers of the Flower Moon has 10. Poor Things has 11. And Oppenheimer has 13. Which is just crazy.
That's great.
I think it's interesting. It's always interesting when I sort of go back and forth as to whether it's more interesting when they're more spread out or not. But either way, it's going to be a big celebration of a great year in film, and there's no bad choices. So,
yep, should be good.
Yeah.
Good.
Anyway,
well, should we wrap it there? That was a bumper one.
Definitely should wrap it there. We're at an hour and 20 minutes because we talked about every category. Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, normally we review 2 new films a week, with the exception of special episodes like this one. If you like the show, please feel free to subscribe, give us a 5-star review on your podcasting platform of choice. And those things will help us get in front of more earballs, and they help in an incalculable way. If you'd like to help us a little more directly, there's a couple different ways to do that, but the main 2 would be we have a Patreon. And if you are a Patreon supporter, you get bonus content every week. This year we talked about past Oscar Best Pictures that we love, and Oscar years we thought were interesting. And that is free to all Patreon supporters. for as little as $2 Canadian a month. You can also go to the homepage of this episode. There will be streaming links for the Best Picture nominees, at least. And if you use those links they're basically links to tell you where you can watch the movies online, either buy, rent, or stream. And if you use those links, we also get a referral fee. So please do that. I lost my train of thought. What do I say?
Record?
What do I?
When do we record?
What do we? Yeah, we record here in Vancouver.
When do we record?
On the, was there something in between there? I always forget. Sometimes I'm like, is there something in between those two things? We record here in Vancouver on the unceded lands of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. One last time, thank you so much for listening and for joining us on this awesome Friday.
Thanks, bye.